Larijani was not the front man, but certainly one of the pivotal figures in this administration, capable of holding the Iranian civil society, the IRGC, and the clerics together, and also was seen as a more pragmatic person. Why aren't they hiding in Moscow right now? Are they dumb? Administration will obviously get to that after we talk about Iran's top national security official dying or being by Israel. Ali Larijani was in an overnight strike.
Security official Ali Larijani has been in an overnight strike in Tehran. He was the secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council. We've got CNN's Oren Lieberman joining us from Tel Aviv. Ali Larijani was very important after the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Now we've heard news and confirmation from the Israelis that he has been in that strike in Tehran. How does this degrade Iran's decision makers and the ability to, keep on making the decisions that we've been seeing and frankly keep the regime intact?
Ali Larijani was considered one of the most key decision makers, if not the primary decision maker in Iran right now, crucially on security issues, but on other issues as well. He was also one of the most vocal and visible members of Iran's leadership, and that put him not only right at the top of the decision-making power in the country, but also right at the top of Israel's target list. We saw that when we learned a short time ago that Israel had targeted Ali Larijani in a strike in Tehran on Monday night. And now we see the statement from Defense Minister Israel Katz that Larijani has been in that strike, according to an Israeli assessment. We haven't yet seen an announcement or confirmation from Iran at this point, but we have already in the past, over the course of the first 2.5 weeks of this war, seen Israel get ahead of the Iranians in announcing who they have successfully targeted and when it comes to Iran's leadership. It wasn't just Larijani that was targeted overnight. The Israeli military said they also targeted the head of Iran's Basij paramilitary forces a short time ago. So Israel going after the top of the security leadership, and that will continue. Defense Minister Israel Katz, in announcing that Larijani had been made clear that the effort to target Iran's leadership would not stop here. In a short statement, he said, "The Prime Minister and I have instructed the IDF to continue hunting the leadership of the and repression regime in Iran." So Katz making it clear at this point that Israel's continued goal as it goes after the Iranian regime's military forces, its space forces, its ballistic missile program, is to keep hunting down and the leadership of Iran's security forces and its political leadership. Anybody who is a decision maker in Iran, it's quite clear at this point, Israel considers a legitimate target that they will continue to go after here.
Yeah, a really good point. What we have seen also, even with of the Ayatollah and other key leadership, dismantling the leadership.
Actions like this make me think Big Yahoo's dead. No, it's not that Big Yahoo's dead. The reason why they're doing this is because Israel realizes that the war effort is not going the way they thought it would. So they're just actively trying to hit the same big red assassinate heads of state button over and over again. Okay, that's it. That's it. That's literally it. That's the only reason why they're doing it. They want to destroy any opportunity that America might have in the future. Like, they're worried that if America gets cold feet, if America realizes that, like, they're not getting the international aid that they feel they need to put pressure on the Iranian government to, like, stand down, right? They're not getting the leverage. The war is too unpopular, both in the United States of America and all around the globe. The energy markets are exploding, and then the capitalists are making boss calls to America. Israel wants to make sure that they can continue with the war effort because there's no other option, or that the Iranian government will be less invested in any sort of negotiation because they're the people that are more pragmatic than the rest. Latest video from Al Jazeera: Iran confirms
just breaking
his death.
into that story to announce that the Iranian state TV have now confirmed that Ali Larijani has been. The government issued a statement saying Ali Larijani, the secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, received the reward for his struggles for the revolution and for Iran, and attained, as they say, the exalted rank of martyrdom, in confirming that Ali Laranjani has been, for decades, Laranjani, well, he was the calm and the pragmatic face, if you like, of the Iranian establishment. He was very much at the heart of negotiations and a very well recognized face, not only in Iran, but internationally too. He was a man with high intellect. He wrote books on the 18th century German philosopher Immanuel Kant, and negotiated nuclear deals with the West. He appeared on state TV just 24 hours after the US-Israeli airstrike to the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps commander. And he delivered a message to the Americans which said, America and the Zionist regime, by which he means Israel, have set the heart of the Iranian nation ablaze. He said, we will burn their hearts, we will make the Zionist criminals, and shameless Americans regret their actions. That's what Laranjani said, and he accused US President Donald Trump of falling into an Israeli trap, and is now at the center of Tehran's response to its biggest crisis since 1979. He's expected, he was thought he was going to have an important role alongside the three-man transitional council, which ran Iran after Khamenei's death. So now it has been announced by Iranian state TV that Ali Laranjani has been confirmed. We also heard earlier that the chief of the Basij, the internal security force, was also...
If there wasn't already enough proof, there should be no doubt for anyone that Israel's trying to prevent the U.S. from engaging in any off-ramps. Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of proof, but I think most people don't care about it. So peace talks are hopeless, right? Do they think they're going to target Arakshi? I mean, they might, but Arakshi is the foreign minister. He's just like, he's a mouthpiece for the state. He doesn't, like, technically, I guess they have a three-party coalition when the Ayatollah is not alive, but he doesn't have like a lot of power. What proof is out there of what? Laranjani, the proof is that the Iranian state has confirmed that he was martyred. Is this the guy who was appearing in Western interviews a lot? No, that's Arakshi. He's still alive. He's the foreign minister. You have the president, who is like, again, another like moderate figure, but functionally powerless. And Arakshi, who's the foreign minister, and then Laranjani, who was the commander of the forces. Laranjani was not the front man, but certainly one of the pivotal figures in this administration, capable of holding the Iranian civil society, the IRGC, and the clerics together, and also was seen as a more pragmatic person. Why aren't they hiding in Moscow right now? Are they dumb? I don't know how I can explain this to you guys. If there's one country on the planet that is literally, and I know this is going to piss off all the ACP guys who love Russia. If there's one country on the planet that is just as Zionist as the United States of America, it's Russia. Okay? What is so difficult for people to understand? Russia is unironically, like, Russia is Zog, okay? Do you know anything about Russia? Russian is the third most spoken language in Israel. More people in Israel speak Russian than speak English, okay? It goes Hebrew, Arabic, Russian. Vladimir Putin has time and time again consistently stated that Russia is Israel is little Russia. Okay? You're so wrong, bro. Man, shut your bitch ass up. I'm sick and tired of these who look at what Russia is doing in Ukraine and think they're an anti-imperialist force. Like, sure, functionally, they have fought back. They're crazy enough to fight back against, like, Western intervention in their own backyard. But if you think that Russia has not been objectively a major ally to Israel for years and years, you are delusional. Oh, my God. It's so funny. Vladimir Putin is an Omega Zionist, man. Oh, but you don't understand, dude. In Syria, they were defending Assad. No, the fuck they weren't. Okay? No, the fuck they weren't. They were not. They have regional ambitions, okay? They have regional ambitions. They have their own interests as far as like remaining a sovereign state. They have security concerns, things like that. But at the end of the day, they also are absolutely consistently playing ball with Israel. You need to check your facts, bro. You're so wrong, bro. So wrong. You need to check your facts, bro. Okay, dude. Soviet Union was the biggest. No. Soviet Union was the biggest supporter of Israel when the Nakba happened, but they quickly flipped it. That's fine. That's not what we're talking about here. The USSR, after the 50s, were no longer in support of Israel. They stopped being supportive of Israel. They were an anti-Zionist force when they realized that Israel was going to be a Western settler colonial project. Okay? We're also not talking about the USSR anyway. We're talking about Vladimir Putin. Okay? Vladimir Putin fucking loves Israel. Okay? Gang, you so wrong. Okay. Just explain why I'm wrong instead of just instead of saying that instead of telling me I'm wrong over and over again, explain why. Okay? Do you think it's an accident that virtually all of the fucking Russian oligarchs that control the Russian economy also have dual citizenship in Israel and use Israel as an entry point to protect their assets because Israel has all of this influence over Western governments? Do you think that happened on accident? It's like thinking that Turkey is actually an enemy of Israel or something, okay? It's not. It's not. Almost half of the energy that Israel uses goes through pipelines that literally go from Azerbaijan to Georgia to Turkey and get put on ships at Turkish ports to make their way to fucking Israel. Okay? If Turkey really had that dog in them, they could shut off the entire Israeli energy grid. Hasan is a reactionary socialist. I'm a reactionary socialist. Okay. Turkey is not an enemy to Israel. Israel is an enemy to Turkey, which might force the Turkish government's hand to take more defensive positions. But both Turkey and Israel are American assets in the region. Russia plays both sides, but even in its like defensive Syria, they put insane limitations on what the Syrian air defenses could technically defend, what they were able to shoot at and what they were not able to shoot at. I think some leftists are duped by the idea that states act in accordance with a consistent and firm ideology because 90% of the time they don't. Russia was involved in Syria because they want to project power into the Mediterranean and the region. That's why they instantly switch sides to keep their bases under al-Sharia, just like why they support Israel despite condemning U.S. hegemony. It's just realpolitik. Exactly. Like, what are we talking about, dude? There are like a million. Dude, you remember Jackson Hinkle literally talking about how Benjamin Netanyahu is going to destroy American hegemony? Because at the time, Benjamin Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin were allies. Also, Israel is one of the few Western aligned nations that has not actually offered support to Ukraine. One must ask the question, why? Israel has offered very little condemnations to Russia. Israel has never played ball with the rest of the Western countries. How did that happen? Both Ukraine and Russia are still very much pro-Israel, okay? It's so funny that Zelensky talks about how, like, Iran sent Shahed drones to Russia initially so that Russia could use those Shahed drones on Ukrainian territory and kill Ukrainian civilians. And they're like, oh, this means that like Iran is our enemy. It's like, shut the fuck up, bro. If you want to look at an enemy, Israel is a far, far greater threat to Ukrainian sovereignty than Iran ever could be. Iran is a small player in this conflict. You wrong. All RU opposition goes to Israel. Oh my God. Oh. A year ago, someone told me you're a campus, and only these days I can clearly see what they were talking about. Bro, one question. Have you ever said, I apologize, I was wrong? About what? Especially on this day, like in this day, what the fuck would I apologize for as far as like my convictions becoming the convictions of the majority, whether it be on Israel or whether it be on anything else, on American imperialism?
And this was heralded by the Israelis as an opportunity for Iranians within the country to rise up and enforce regime change.
Brother, at least in polls, Russian sentiment towards Israel has created over the last 5 years. Oh, yeah, because fucking Russia abides by principled democratic stances. So if the regular, ordinary Russians fucking despise Israel, that means Vladimir Putin also has to despise Israel. Wake up, man. None of these fucking countries are democratic. They don't give a fuck about public pressure beyond rebellion, okay? That's it. It's in a way, it's no different than the way that the Chinese government operates. I would say that Chinese government has more democratic outcomes than the Russian government in reality. But especially as it pertains to foreign policy, it is inconsequential in the United States of America, a country that is supposed to have a functioning, robust democratic process. So what makes you think it's going to fucking matter in places like Russia? It does not fucking matter. It does not matter. The public's opinion does not matter unless it literally turns into a major issue where people are saying, fuck it, like we're gonna foment rebellion. They're not gonna give a shit. Even China, one of the largest remaining communist states, has no real sense of international solidarity and is still buddy-buddy with Israel, quashes Marxist groups in the Philippines and Myanmar, and just acts in a national interest. Very few states ever take a risk for an ideological goal. You got Khrushchev in the 60s, Olaf Palme, Cuba, and like maybe Pedro Sanchez. Come on. You can't compare current Pedro Sanchez to fucking Khrushchev in the 60s, Olaf Palme, or Cuba. That's crazy. Pedro Sanchez is just doing an aesthetic posture because he realizes that, you know, the punishments that he will incur are inconsequential. He's not doing anything beyond what China is doing. China does stern condemnations all the fucking time. Pedro Sanchez is just picking it up. There's a difference between people who have literally died for it, like Olaf Palme, versus people that are just aesthetically taking a stance.
Iranian state TV confirming that Ali Laranjani has been killed. It's something that was announced some time ago and was confirmed by the Israelis and by Donald Trump in the US, but we were awaiting confirmation from the Iranians themselves, and it now seems, well, we do have confirmation that Ali Laranjani has died. So, once again, Iranian state media have announced in the last few minutes that the country's security chief, Ali Laranjani, is dead. That's hours after the Israeli military said he was killed in a dawn strike on Tuesday. Also killed.
Yes, Cuba literally helped African countries fight. Yes. Cuba is literally as close as you can get to a truly morally righteous country, okay? Nothing comes near it. I don't have rose-colored glasses on this shit. I'm just simply an observer of history. There is no country on the planet that you can literally point to with like close to an infallible track record other than motherfucking Cuba, okay? One of the best nation states on the planet. Nothing comes near it, okay? With how little they had and how much they sacrificed and continue to do so. It is unbearable what we've done to Cuba and what we continue to do to Cuba.
In the same strike, as I just mentioned, was Gholam Reza Soleimani, the commander of the internal security force, known as a Basij. Russell Serder now takes a look back at Laranjani's climb to Iran's top political and security circles.
Anyway.
Structure has been difficult because you're seeing people replaced really quickly. Ali Larijani appeared on TV 24 hours after the assassination of the Ayatollah. What is the sense in terms of the amount of people that are available to replace the likes of Ali Larijani and other key decision makers in terms of, making the prospect?
Olaf Palme was literally anti-communist? Yeah, of course he was. But Olaf Palme, like, there is not a figure like Olaf Palme in the world right now. You understand? In the Western world. Who could you point to? Like, Olaf Palme is the real lion of social democracy, okay? If there's one figure that you can present as, like, being principled, yes, he was, of course, anti-communist. Yes, of course. That was the true beacon of social democracy, and look what happened, okay? Yes, there is no European social democrat that isn't anti-communist, by the way. Like, that doesn't exist. What are you talking about? They're just communists. And even the communists are social democrats now, so it doesn't even fucking matter. He let CIA and Mossad conduct an espionage against his own people. The espionage group was literally a deep state that the parliament had no clue about. The two journalists that exposed the scandals got jailed for no reason, and Palme lied for years in hearings that this group didn't exist until he admitted it later. Well, he died, so he was assassinated.
of regime change possible in these circumstances?
That's a really good question, and Israel may have an assessment of that. How far do you have to go down Iran's leadership ladder to seriously weaken the regime? From the conversations we've had with Israeli military officials, the airstrikes alone, and they are extensive with thousands more to go, are not likely to topple the regime on its own.
Like, can you imagine a world where every single European leader looked like Olof Palme? Like, had the same attitudes? Just imagine. Like, not even remotely radical by what is necessary, but a world where like every European capital was led by the likes of Olof Palme. There would be no Israel, okay? Like, it would be the European Union would unironically be sending fucking the French nuclear the French nuclear aircraft carrier to Cuba right now, towing a bunch of fucking oil tankers. We're talking about social democrats that offered material support to anti-colonial resistance fronts, okay? We're talking about people that by today's standards would be offering not only political cover to Hamas, but maybe even material support to Hamas. Yeah, Palme sent military aid to a designated terrorist organization to the West, the ANC, during apartheid. It's not even a comparison. Pedro Sanchez does not meet that standard at all. Can you imagine a world where Pedro Sanchez is literally fucking sending military aid to Hamas and Hezbollah? No, you can't. Because there is no European leadership that would make decisions like that, okay? It doesn't exist anymore.
That's why you see Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu trying to appeal to the people of Iran, effectively telling them your time will come where it's up to you to overthrow the regime. I don't think Israel believes that it can do that and topple Iran's leadership with airstrikes itself, no matter how far it goes down that list of leadership. It's also very difficult to tell people to come out onto the streets when you're carrying out waves of strikes on a daily and sometimes it seems like an hourly basis. But what's clear, at least at this point,
hey, Hasan, I don't have the knowledge, so please don't scream at me, but how would Cuban intervention and African revolutions be different from U.S. and Israeli societal discourse influence in Iran? Because one is objectively an anti-imperialist act. The other is objectively an imperialist act. Okay? We see the outcome of U.S. and American intervention in Iran right now for the last 17 fucking days. Okay? Chemical warfare, for example, the destruction of desalination plants, schools being blown up and double tapped. It's the exact opposite. There's a difference between good things and bad things, okay? If you're an anti-imperialist, of course, other countries offering aid to anti-imperialist movements is a good thing. Anti-colonial action is a good thing.
Israel will keep working its way down that leadership list in terms of targeted killings and assassinations. And the moment Iran names a replacement for Larijani, that person too will be on Israel's list.
With us now, CNN senior military analyst, retired Admiral.
Also, don't get mad at that chatter. He's just trying to learn. There's no problem. There's no issue with that.
Well, James Stavridis, Admiral, thank you so much for being with us. The news that we are waking up to is Israel is claiming they have killed this man.
Yeah, the chatter is missing that the West had already intervened there and Cuba was aiding those fighting the Western intervention. Exactly. It would be, again, it would be the equivalent of like if there was a Cuba-style country out there, okay, who's wild enough right now, they would literally be sending military aid to the Palestinian resistance. They would be sending military aid to the Lebanese resistance. They would be sending military aid, maybe even to Iran. Okay? No such country exists because the USSR no longer exists. And since the 90s, it has just been America's way or the highway. And no other country outside of the American security umbrella even dares to dream of doing such a thing. I mean, China doesn't do it either. At most, you get a little bit of support, but it's not like China is like sending troops, right? There was a point when they did, and sometimes it wasn't good, okay? I'm not saying all Chinese intervention was good. There was definitely some bad Chinese interventions, okay? R.I.P. Gaddafi, you would have trafficked so many arms. Oh, yeah.
Ali Larijani, who's the Iranian security chief, maybe the most powerful man in Iran over the last several weeks, maybe even several months. Also, they say they killed this man in charge of the Basij paramilitary force. This is on top, obviously, of already killing this man's father, the late Ayatollah al-Khamenei. This is Moshtara Khamenei, now this is injured. So, Admiral, my question to you is, if they keep targeting Israel and effectively eliminating these leaders, what does that do?
Do you think Chinese intervention right now would be a net positive? Yes. Yes. My attitude is this, okay? A lot of people look at American intervention in totally black and white terms, okay? A lot of people in the United States of America think like we are all winning collectively when America is dominating militarily. I genuinely think that forcing America to de-escalate by making the American government incur such penalties that they are forced to reconsider endless militarism globally is objectively a good thing for the world and is objectively a good thing for the American population. Okay? Any force right now on the planet that forces America to recalculate endless militarism will actually be doing everyone a service, would be doing the American population a service. It's not like, what do you think I mean when I say we are dumping unlimited amounts of money into our bloated military industrial complex, and all of those dollars could actually go back to serving the American people? What do you think I mean when I say that? I mean it. That's a real thing that I believe. I'm not just saying that because I'm like secretly in the pocket of China or Iran, and I just actively want to brainwash Americans into believing that America must be weak in its military ambitions. Like, that's not my goal here. My goal, I don't give a fuck about any state. Okay? I don't care about the states. I don't care about their ambitions. I care about the people. Okay? And from the perspective of ordinary Americans, our bankrolling of endless empire around the globe is not beneficial for the countries that we're dominating, it's people that we're slaughtering, and it's certainly not beneficial for the ordinary American citizens that don't even see any of these returns of the imperial bounty. Okay? That's it. A broader escalation between two nuclear powers is not beneficial for humanity. No, this is leading from a place of fear. Okay? It's leading from a place of fear. Everyone is worried that if there is any sort of like material penalty here for America to retreat, then it's going to be bad overall. It's going to be chaos and instability. I think that avoids recognizing the ongoing reality, which is that America as the hegemonic superpower has devastated countries over and over again. Okay? We've devastated countries economically. We've devastated countries militarily. We are killing people all the fucking time, all around the world. It has. I also want relief, but I think China involving itself would set us back. It exposes China, and it does not help the liberation of the proletariat worldwide. The USSR did that, and arguably that's why they lost. Well, the USSR never was the manufacturing hub of the entire planet that controls all of the fucking resources necessary to even build weapons. China does have that level of control. China has that level of influence over America and how much war America could wage. That's the reason why it's a different calculation now. But what would you say to the argument that China is still becoming stronger and stronger every year and U.S. is getting weaker and weaker, so it's still beneficial to wait? The problem is America sees that as well. That's why Trump is doing all the shit that he's doing currently. He's just kind of failing. He's flubbing. But if he was a little bit more competent, I think that they would set back a new world order by decades, and a lot of people would die in the process, and maybe even do the unthinkable and nuclear first strike a country with no nuclear arms and completely change the calculation. I am in favor of multipolarity because multipolarity has been beneficial for the working class all around the world. Okay? Obviously, a singular hegemonic force, the United States of America, has not. I mean, we know. Look at the world since the 90s. Look at how it's shifted. Look at how it's changed since the 90s, right? But if we want multipolarity, China has to also, act like it. Can't believe you said he's flubbing. I mean, he is. He's only able to intervene and dominate militarily countries like Venezuela. But if there's a country out there that's willing to fight back, you see the results. It's fucking devastating.
The instability of the regime, particularly the absence now of Larijani.
Let's park on Larijani for a minute. John, you'll get this reference. He's kind of the Cardinal Richelieu of this rotten theocracy. He's been floating around, manipulating, leading in, and now he ascended to the top with the killing of Khamenei and the ascension of Khamenei's son, who is probably gravely wounded. So this is a big deal. If killing Khamenei was kind of a 10, I'd say this is an 8.5. It's a big deal. And the character to the right is the leader of the Basji militia, truly dreaded by the people. So point one, this is a big deal, taking these two out. Point two, to your question, somewhere in the headquarters of Mossad and probably over in the Curia, which is the Pentagon of Israel, they have a big board, and it's got pictures of all of these folks drilling down way below the 4-star, down to 3-star, 2-star, putting it in military context. They're going to continue to relentlessly go after these people. And
Killing Khamenei did nothing, though. So, ironically enough, killing Khamenei obviously demonstrably did not cause any sort of like military withdrawal. As a matter of fact, it did the exact opposite. And Larijani is the same. Assassinating Larijani doesn't do anything to like stave off Iranian retaliatory strikes. It has the capacity to escalate, and it is an escalation. And it also literally diminishes one of the ways in which eventually America could de-escalate.
3, and finally, here's the good news. At some point, you may get down to a layer.
When you blame China, taking into account that the U.S. has currently sounded it from all its borders, China's preparing to go to the war with the U.S. Why the fuck would they waste their resources fighting in Iran? No, that's not, I don't think, what? No, these are two nuclear armed nations. What are you talking about? What? No. No, America is at war, Cold War with China right now. That's already happening. This is a proxy. It's a Chinese proxy. It's beneficial for China to fund the Iranian defenses. It's beneficial for a million different reasons. I don't think that China is going to go to hot war. I don't even think America is crazy enough to go into a hot war with China. It's nuclear warfare. What are you talking about? Are you pro or anti-war? I'm anti-war. Of course I'm anti-war. But when war comes to your doorstep, you have to defend your sovereignty. And if you're a major power that wants to play a role in stabilizing the world, okay, and China is a major power that wants to stabilize the planet, right? At a certain point, you got to realize, like, all right, well, you're in Cold War, which I'm sure they already understand. But the Chinese attitude is, we're far away from all this stuff. We don't want to intervene at all. Is, it's eventually going to have to change, right? Have to change when the battle lines are hardened. Because right now they're like, we don't care if Iran is in American hands, just like with Iraq. They still send oil from Iraq to China, right? If Iran is in American hands and they still send oil to China, then China is happy with this. They don't care. But that's the upper hand that America now has to shut off oil if they choose to do so. And as long as China maintains export controls as a weapon to wield against America, as a very important part of China's advantage against the United States, because the United States can't make anything. They can't make any missiles if China literally says, no more. We're doing export controls. You're not getting magnets. You're not getting the rare earth minerals necessary for production of your missiles, of your defense industry. Then what the fuck's America going to do? They don't have a contingency plan set up. This is, once again, a shortcoming of capitalism in the interest of national security. If America wanted to think about this from a national security perspective, they would have to find an alternative market. Right now, you have Australia, and it's not even remotely competitive, and half of the Australian extraction is also dominated by China as well. Yes, they do, bro. Oh my God, is this the same guy? You don't think the Chinese manufacturing facilities wouldn't be bombed in a war with the U.S.? There is no war between China and the U.S. What are you talking about? There's only a Cold War between China and the U.S. These are two nuclear armed nations. Is this the same guy? The same guy who said they have contingencies and never explained what they were. I love this guy. I'm never going to ban him. He's so fucking dumb.
In the rock formation where you can actually have a conversation.
Yeah, and again, both of these guys key in the crackdown of the protests over the last several months there. Maybe this will, if they are both in fact gone, inspire some kind of new uprising on the streets there, although that too carries risks. I want to shift gears here and ask about the U.S. troop movements. We know that CENTCOM has approved a Marine Expeditionary Force to head toward the Middle East. We believe they're somewhere over here, and they will arrive sometime.
Do you think if the Iranian regime falls over for China? No. No, of course not. What? No, it doesn't fucking matter. I mean, it sucks for reliable energy, and it sucks additionally because if the Iranian regime falls, the biggest tools of the Defense Production Act, Hasan, you need to learn. You're such a fucking moron. Oh my God, this guy is such a fucking idiot. You're literally... The Defense Production Act cannot materialize the rare earth minerals that are refined and procured in China, okay? They just don't, you can't materialize things that you need, the materials necessary to build missiles, okay? The components are made in China. You just can't do that. It's not magic. The DPA is not magic, okay? Unless there is literally some kind of alchemy at play inside of the Pentagon that we were oblivious to, it's not going to happen, okay? You can't just spawn missiles out of nowhere. You don't know what you're talking about. I know more than you on this. That's why I said there are contingencies that they could set up in Australia and Japan, but even then, they can't make up for it in time. They can't make up for the loss in time. Yeah, the DPA will change the mineral composition of our continental shelf and also magically cause a fast enough productive force in a matter of days. They're just going to spawn factories that are capable. They're going to spawn, the DPA is going to spawn industrial output that is capable of making up for the demand on top of the mineral composition change. Okay? It's so fucking stupid. You need years and years and years of refinement and a labor force that has learned how to engage in this refinement process. We don't have any of that shit. Bro thinks DPA just magically flips a switch and everyone that's like working in the existing factories are capable of learning how to do this in time
In the next week or so, maybe a little bit after that. Admiral, what do you think these 2,500 Marines or so will be doing?
I think there are three options kind of floating around out there. The first and most brooded about.
Yeah, bro thinks DPA's God mode. Like he thinks like it's a cheat, unlimited ammunition cheat.
Is the idea of seizing Karg Island. Karg Island is the center of the Iranian oil, gas production facility. It's their transshipment point for 90%. You're circling it now. It's well north of the Strait of Hormuz. You know, we're all quite centered on the strait, but the Persian Gulf is huge and a great deal of oil and gas moves. And up there, Karg Island, that is the heart of the Iranian. And that, believe me, is U.S. Marine Corps 101. Seizing islands. Think Iwo Jima, World War II.
Iwo Jima. Oh my God. Wait. Iwo Jima casualties. The Battle of Iwo Jima from February 19th to March 26, 1949. 26,000 American casualties, including nearly 7,000 killed, making it one of the bloodiest in Pacific history. The Japanese garrison of roughly 21,000 defenders was almost completely wiped out. Famously easy to take. Oh my Lord. What a fantastic example of a resounding success. Yeah, I'm not even going to get into Okinawa, which of course is far worse. But it's just so funny that he's just like, come on, the same number of people, like half the number of people that died in the entire global war on terror just for this one fucking island. So we made a whole statue to dedicate how little sacrifice it took. Yeah, when I'm thinking of like famous military conquests that are very easy, okay? I'm thinking of Iwo Jima. That's fucking awesome.
Okinawa, they're very good at this. It's a relative.
By the way, this also, once again, is so idiotic because let's say you take it, okay? You can't keep it. You take it, but you can't hold it. How are you going to hold it? And even if you take it and you hold it for a short period of time, how is this going to change the 2-mile area that oil tankers can pass through in the Strait of Hormuz? That's where Karg Island is. This is where the Strait of Hormuz is. The reason why they want to take Karg Island is so that they can have pressure, so they can have leverage over the Iranian government to forcibly open the Strait of Hormuz because they cannot militarily open the Strait of Hormuz. Okay? Like, it's so stupid.
Relatively small island, John. It's about third the size of Manhattan where you are. I think the Marine Force coming in with complete air superiority and sea control around it would be sufficient to seize and potentially hold the island. That puts at risk the entire Iranian economy. That's basically because they are really nothing more than a gas station. That puts them at big risk. And then you turn to them and say, how would you like to open the Strait of Hormuz now? That's a pretty reasonable play. So I think that's the key mission for those troops. You could also see them around.
This guy's supposed to be like a tactician. What is happening? Do they just not teach anything in military academies now? What the fuck? Yeah, you just take it and it's fine. And then you say to the Iranians, we took it, now it's ours. Do you want it back? Well, then you got to open the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. What happens when Iran goes, okay, we can't actually fucking ship oil anymore? Well, guess what? Now we're fucking damming the Strait of Hormuz. What happens then? What now? What now? Oh, you just shut off our export capabilities in Karg Island. Guess what? Now we've dammed the Strait of Hormuz because we can't pass our fucking tankers through. So now it's going to be even more complicated for any commerce and any trade to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. What do you think happens to the oil prices then?
The Strait of Hormuz, knocking down land facilities that threaten the strait. In an extremis, you could see them going after the uranium, the enriched uranium.
Yeah, it's awesome. They don't siege Leningrad, take it immediately is like the resounding attitude from these fucking brilliant military tacticians.
That's a tough mission. I'd bet on Karg Island.
All right, Admiral James Stavridis, thank you so much for helping us understand what these Marines could do when
North Korea's ruling coalition secures near unanimous support in parliamentary election with 99.99% turnout. Major Kim victory. Hell yeah.
they get there, as obviously the battle and focus is on the Strait of Hormuz and reopening that key waterway. Appreciate it.
He's seen as one of the pillars of
My goat did it again, dude. Who would have thought? You know, there was a point where people were really worried. Okay, I was really worried. He was gonna have some serious opposition. Oh man, that's funny. Tough race, but Kim pulled through. My goat. Despite the overwhelming odds, he did it.
the Islamic Republic, and yet he works mainly from the shadows. Ali Larijani is Iran's top national security official and quickly became the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's right-hand man. According to the New York Times, the country's former supreme leader tasked him with running the country in the event of war. The move effectively sidelines the sitting president as Larijani exerts control over Iran's nuclear and diplomatic affairs.
Since the start, we've been convinced that war will not resolve the disagreements between our two countries. Regional conflicts between Iran and the West must be resolved by dialogue. Others have been mistaken in thinking that these problems can be solved by force. This attitude has been detrimental to progress.
A few weeks after the 12-day war with Israel last June, Larijani was named head of the National Security Council, returning to a position he held 20 years prior. Son of a dignitary close to Ayatollah Khamenei, Larijani started his career within the Revolutionary Guard before becoming the director of Iran's national broadcaster in 1994. Between 2005 and 2007, he was the lead nuclear negotiator and was a key figure between the 2015 JCPOA agreement. He ran for president several times but was rejected by the Guardian Council.
Resolving the issue of U.S. sanctions in order to open up the economic space will be one of my diplomatic priorities.
Ali Larijani is one of the officials sanctioned by Washington for the bloody crackdown against protesters in January, a crisis he blames on American and Israeli interference.
The death of Ali Larijani has sent shockwaves across the Iranian capital here. Quite literally, some of us felt the impact of massive explosions in the early hours this morning, which were presumably the bombs, possibly bunker-busting bombs that assassinated him. Now, he was a very high-level target. He was
Holy hell,
one
they
of
hit
the
the
first
airport.
officials to
Bombs
come out
in Dubai.
and confirm the death of the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. He was a negotiator going back decades. He was the Speaker of the Parliament, and he was one of the sort of most senior security officials most recently. It's fair to say that few officials really understood how the Iranian state operated as well as Ali Larijani. So he is a big loss to the Iranians, and the Israelis will say, therefore, it was worth taking him out. And they will say it will hasten the end of the Iranian regime, as they call it, which is one of their war aims. Having said that, the Iranians have built into their institutions of government resilience, and every person who's killed is replaced by a successor who's previously appointed, and then they're replaced by another one, and so on. And so he's not irreplaceable. The other point to make about Ali Larijani is if there was anybody who could help the West and the Iranians negotiate a way out of this crisis, no efforts towards that end yet. But if there was, then it would be Ali Larijani. He's somebody who's negotiated with the Gulf, he's negotiated with the West during the nuclear discussions years ago. Americans could do business with.
Bro said, if you're in a hotel or close to one, go there. Hotels are the only civilian buildings they hit. Go inside any other building and you should be safe. Do not stay at a hotel if you're in the Gulf. Do not stay at a hotel if you're in the Gulf. Leave the hotels ASAP. It's so crazy because like I talked about this, remember when I was in Qatar, when there was like a American military guy staying in the hotel and he had his full uniform on, and I was like, bro, what the fuck is this shit? I literally told you guys, like I had a conversation with my dad. My dad was like, what? What's the problem? I was like, do you not understand what the problem is? Like we're agitating a war with Iran and you got American troops staying in the fucking hotel. This ain't the motherfucking barracks. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, motherfuckers about to turn us into human shields.
Iran. The president is moving about 2,500 Marines to the region. Are you okay with putting those two troops on the ground?
I actually spoke to some media last night, and I indicated that I believe that what these 2,500 Marines of the Marine Expeditionary Force would be to probably secure the island. The island is not, in my opinion, boots on the ground in combat circumstances.
It is a territory. It is Iran.
Facility. Well, I'm not going to argue that point. As a matter of fact, you're right. But what I would say is the president has chosen not to obliterate the ability that to get oil, and I think he wants to go secure that to make sure the Iranians don't do themselves in. So I think it's probably wisdom. Is that boots on the ground? No, not like inside Iran where they're in the cities, to where we go through circumstances that we've had in the past of large areas of population.
I love that it's always, this time is different.
Combatants against us, and it is a mess. I am against what I call the mess, moving people, Marines, snipers into population areas. But
dude, the creativity that these guys deploy when dancing around the issue of boots on the ground while demanding boots on the ground is incredible. It's awesome. Yeah. See, you don't understand. Putting 2,500 Marine boots on the ground being Iranian soil, is technically not boots on the ground. It's different because the ground implies soil that is connected to the Iranian mainland. And this, on the other hand, is not the Iranian mainland. It's an island. Simple mistake. That's the difference. It's floating in the water, and therefore it's a different kind of land, so it doesn't count as boots on the ground. Yeah. Big mistake. Great stuff, man. Thank you.
This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. We begin today's show in Iran, as Israel's military says it's assassinated Iran's security chief, Ali Larijani, one of the most powerful figures in the Islamic Republic. Larijani was seen as the de facto leader of Iran following Israel's...
Islands don't float. Man, obviously I'm fucking joking, dude.
Assassination of the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, on the first day of the war on February 28th. Israel claims it's also assassinated Gholam Reza Soleimani, the head of the besieged military. We begin the show with Trita Parsi, an Iranian-American, executive vice president of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, author of several books, including Losing an Enemy, Obama, Iran, and the Triumph of Diplomacy. Trita, if you can explain the significance of this moment. Iran has not confirmed this, but Israel says it has killed the security chief, Ali Larijani. Who is he? And also the head of the Barej militia. Talk about both.
The fuck?
Have your audio up.
But it's not clear at this point whether Larijani himself was killed. It appears likely, but we don't know yet for certain. And it would be a very significant development, almost on par with the killing of the supreme leader. In the past couple of months, he had emerged as a critical person within the Iranian theocracy. He was not so much a decision maker as he was the person who was creating consensus, the consensus maker within that system, but also someone that was seen as much more open to the idea of reaching a diplomatic solution. In fact, there had been some diplomatic outreach between him and a very key person in the White House prior to this war, back in December. So he was definitely seen as someone who the United States potentially at some point could deal with. Whether the Israelis deliberately targeted him because they just had the opportunity, because it was an effort to kill any potential off-ramp for Trump by eliminating those who could engage in diplomacy with him, or whether this is something that has more to do with the fact that perhaps the strategy now is shifting back towards regime decapitation after it's become clear that reopening the straits militarily is going to be extremely difficult. And as a result, the U.S. and Israel are shifting back towards what they started off this war with.
How does this exactly fix the world's oil problem? I feel like we take it doesn't. It doesn't. We take Karg Island. We can't even hold it. We can't even take it, but let's say we take it, okay? Let's say we take it, we can't really hold it. But let's say we take it and we hold it, okay? Now we're in the doubly unlikely territory, okay? What does that do? Karg Island is far removed from the Strait of Hormuz. The reason why the American government would even float the idea of taking Karg Island is because they want to use it as leverage against the Iranian government. You take a strategic position that is important for Iranian oil exports, and then you say, hey, we'll give this back to you, but you have to come to the table and engage in a ceasefire and open the Strait of Hormuz. Because they can't militarily open the Strait of Hormuz. But if you can't militarily open the Strait of Hormuz, you can't really militarily take Karg Island either. Obviously, defending the Strait of Hormuz is much easier than defending Karg Island because Karg Island is mostly just civil infrastructure. They have some barracks. There's 8,000 people that live on it. There's some cultural landmarks on it as well. But Karg Island is an island that's primarily filled with civilians. There's some military surface-to-air missiles there as well. But if the Iranian government decides, fuck it, you took Karg Island, we're going to blow it up. Like we're not going to care about our own facilities on there, right? Because there's like oil depots, things like that. Then what are the Americans going to do? Like if they if they decide that they can just rebuild the facilities there later down the line, and right now it's just war, Karg Island would turn into a kill box for the Marines that are deployed on there. And then also on top of that, because we're going up the escalation ladder, Iran would take a much, much stronger stance against the production in the Gulf, okay, and even permanently shut off the Strait of Hormuz by mining it.
If they could decapitate the regime and cause regime implosion. I don't find that very likely. This is definitely a huge tactical blow to the Iranians, but the system already has preparedness for eventualities of this kind. We saw that after the killing of the supreme leader, and the same thing will happen with the head of the Basij that has now also been killed.
And Trita, in a recent article you wrote, I'm wondering your sense of where this war is heading. You wrote, one of the main mistakes on the American side is they believe the Iranians feared war more than surrender. In reality, they fear surrender far more than they fear war. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, I think that the United States and the Trump administration went into this war with a very false perception of Iran's state of strength. Iran was much, much weaker than it actually was. This was also a narrative that had been dramatically pushed by the Israelis, knowing very well that the argument for attacking Iran would very much be premised on the idea that it would be a relatively easy and quick thing to do. You need to convince Trump that it's easy and quick in order for him to go along with it. They succeeded in that. See what Marco Rubio said in his testimony in the Senate in January, essentially saying that there is a window of opportunity attacking because of this unique weakness of Iran. The weakest it has been since 1979 was the line. And the perception on the Trump administration side was that either the Iranians would simply be forced to capitulate and surrender, or the regime would implode. And in order to avoid that, they would strike a deal. They would essentially surrender in order to safeguard their own survival. But this is a fundamental misread of the theocracy in Iran, not just because its strength was clearly not as weak as the US thought. On the contrary, we see now very clearly they were very well prepared for this type of a war and have managed to, in some ways, increase their power, particularly their leverage through the Strait of Hormuz, but also because of the fact that at the end of the day, surrender was never in the cards. This is a theocracy that could survive war. It could even survive losing a war. But if it were to surrender, it would lose its base of support, the 15 to 20% of the population that still supported. They would be completely unforgiving of any such measure. And that would be a far clearer death knell to the theocracy than even a military loss.
Trita, before you go, I know you have to leave within the minute. What do you say to the analysts who are now saying with Larijani, if in fact he is dead, killed by Israel, that Israel recognized him as a negotiator behind the scenes, whether it's with Russia or the United States, and that they don't want these negotiations to take place?
No, from the Israeli standpoint, it's absolutely clear they want this war to continue as long as the U.S. is in the war and actively bombing Iran. They're very fearful of Trump declaring victory and just ending the war. They have still achieved quite a lot because the Iranian military has been significantly degraded in several different aspects. However, the Israelis have fought so hard to get the United States to go into a full-scale war with Iran. For more than 20 years, they have tried to do this. So now when that has finally been achieved, it is...
Yes, anti-war, anti-Semitism is still anti-Semitism. I know. We have a new version of anti-Semitism that just dropped, which is when you repeat basically what Marco Rubio and Donald Trump has said. Okay, it's no longer allowed. As I said earlier today, reiterating the point that someone else was making, is if you say we're going to war for Israel, we're going to war with Iran for Israel, and that's good, not anti-Semitism. If you say we're going to war with Iran for Israel, and that's bad, that's anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism of the highest order. Okay, it's a new update. Maybe you guys didn't get the patch notes. Anti-Semitism has been updated. Okay, that's what it is. If you're actually anti-Semitic, that's negligible. I need to know what your opinion is on Israel and America waging Israel's wars. If that's you know, that's what I need to know to make up my mind on whether you're being anti-Semitic or how anti-Semitic you're being.
And their interest to prolong this war as long as they can.
Is Miss Rachel against the war? Well, she's against child murder, which is, again, maximalist anti-Semitism. It's probably the highest version of anti-Semitism that you can achieve when you say no children should be slaughtered. Because Miss Rachel rarely ever says, like, Israel is bad. She just says, you shouldn't murder children. And then every defender of Israel, for some weird reason, immediately goes, blood libel. This is blood libel. You're doing blood libel. You hate the Jews. You want every Jewish person to be genocided. It's very strange. It's very strange behavior. Nobody ever thinks about how this reflects upon Jewish people in general that did not ask for this, that want nothing to do with Israel. And yet, you know, according to the ADL, this is one of the most dangerous versions of anti-Semitism that you can engage in. It's so funny. Like, America is going to war. All of our leadership has said this is for Israel. Like, every single one has basically said this is for Israel and it's good. Okay? And there are Vox.com reporters who are like, well, don't you think this is a little anti-Semitic to reflect on it? Like, don't you think that's somewhat anti-Semitic to suggest? Why won't you consider? Why won't you just lie? Why won't you just say that that's not the case, right? Like, why won't you just simply not reflect on reality? Because it makes me feel bad. It's awesome. We're going to get to Joe Kent in a second.
And kill off any potential off-ramps that Trump may be looking for. And if Trump actually were to look for an off-ramp actively, a critical counterpart of his would most likely have been Ali Larijani. And we've already seen that several people who could have played that type of a role have been killed. And the remaining people within the theocracy tend to be the much more hardline ones who also see a benefit in prolonging the war rather than negotiating an end to it.
Trita Parsi, we want to thank you for being with us, Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, author of several books, including Losing an Enemy, Obama, Iran, and the Triumph of Diplomacy. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.
We just learned, get this, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, has just announced he's resigning. CNN national security reporter Zachary Cohn is joining us right now. Zachary, what more can you tell us about this dramatic development?
Yeah, Wolf, this appears to be a significant resignation at the senior-most levels of the Trump intelligence community. This is Joe Kent. He was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center.
And we're talking about Joe Kent. Head of U.S. Counterterrorism Center announces his resignation. And he is in the most like American version of events, most like post-MAGA America version of events. He already did an interview with Tucker Carlson. That interview is coming. And he also released a statement on Twitter. PSL 6 Mogger. I mean, he's not a good guy, by the way. Like, Joe Kent is not a good person. I need you guys to understand. Like, he is literally he was Trump's U.S. counterterrorism lead, okay? He's not a good person at all. But even a fucking bad person can still recognize the writing on the wall and decide to take a stance against it. So when all these people are like going through the background of Joe Kent and they talk about his anti-Semitism, just remember that they didn't have this kind of issue about Joe Kent when Trump literally hired a white nationalist. Okay? He's a literal Hitler apologist. How are people falling for this stuff? Because it is not pertinent to his decision at the moment. Okay? Like, that's the reason. This is no different than the Candace Owens situation. Just as Ben Shapiro knew Candace Owens was anti-Semitic and did not give a fuck about it as long as she was pro-Israel, it only became an issue when Candace Owens became anti-Israel. And the same goes for Joe Kent. Do you understand? I can't comprehend how I just don't understand how people have a